A freshman Republican lawmaker from Texas recently put on a performance that looked less like serious questioning and more like a loyalty test. Using his time on the House Judiciary Committee, he went after former special counsel Jack Smith, but the real goal wasn't answers. The focus was the investigation into efforts to overturn the 2025 election. More specifically, the subpoenas issued for phone records connected to Kevin McCarthy and several other Republican leaders. The congressman clearly believed he had found a big gotcha moment. He pointed to a non-disclosure order and tried to frame it as something dark and secretive. But in reality, he was deliberately confusing routine legal procedure with a conspiracy. So let's take a look at this hearing first. And then I'll break down what actually happened here and what didn't.
Mr. Smith, at the time you secured those non-disclosure orders, was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
Non-disclosure order was based on concerns about
Was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
He was not.
He was not. Then why did your non-disclosure order refer to him as a flight risk? It says right here, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution.
The risks don't have to be
You
associated.
think that the Speaker of the House is a flight risk?
The question?
No, this is not your time. This is my time.
The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gill, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Smith, in January of 2023, did you subpoena then Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's toll records?
Yes, sir, we did.
Yes, you did. And the subpoena covered the time period between November 2020 and January 2021. Is that right?
I'm sorry, sir, could you say that again?
We're not going to delay like this. The subpoena covered the time period between November of 2020 and January 2021. How many days after Kevin McCarthy was sworn in as Speaker did you subpoena his records?
I don't recall, but those two things had nothing to
It
do
was
with one.
16 days after becoming the highest-ranking Republican in the House of Representatives. You subpoenaed his toll records. Do you agree that that might reasonably be considered a violation of the speech or debate clause?
I do not, and I want to be clear that the toll
You were
records...
collecting months' worth of phone data on the Republican Speaker of the House, the leader of the opposition, right after he got sworn in as Speaker, all around the time of a major vote. That sounds like a flagrant violation of the speech or debate clause to me, and I think most people agree with me. And Speaker McCarthy had no recourse, did he? Because you issued a non-disclosure order ensuring that neither he nor any of the American people knew about these subpoenas. Is that right?
The toll record, the non-content toll record subpoenas, we did secure non-disclosure orders for those subpoenas.
You did, and let me ask you, Mr. Smith, at the time you secured those non-disclosure orders, was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
The non-disclosure order was based on concerns about...
Was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
He was not.
He was not. Then why did your non-disclosure order refer to him as a flight risk? It says right here, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution.
Sir, when securing a non-disclosure order, the risks don't have to be
You
associated...
think that the Speaker of the House is a flight risk?
The question?
No, this is not your time. This is my time.
Now, this is where it's important to pause for a moment, because what you've just heard naturally sounds troubling. The Department of Justice, the Speaker of the House, phone records, and the phrase flight risk. At first glance, it feels like a scandal, as if the federal government were secretly surveilling one of the most powerful figures in Washington, as if Kevin McCarthy were some kind of international fugitive, someone prepared to disappear overnight. And yes, it's easy to make jokes about how quickly McCarthy distanced himself from his principles after January 6th, and how quickly his loyalty shifted toward Mar-a-Lago. But the law doesn't operate on sarcasm. It operates on facts. And that's where this entire exchange begins to fall apart. If this hearing made you angry, if it left you with the impression that something deeply improper was happening, that reaction was not accidental. That was the objective. Representative Gill was counting on viewers not digging into the legal framework. He was betting that emotionally charged language would do the work for him. Words like spying, secret orders, and flight risk. And unfortunately, that strategy often works. But once you step back and examine the law itself, the narrative changes. What Jack Smith did was not based on some obscure authority. It was done under explicit statutory permission. The authority for these non-disclosure orders comes from 18 U.S. Code, Section 2775B. The statute is clear. If notifying a person would result in any one of 5 specific harms, a court may issue a non-disclosure order. Flight from prosecution is only one of those possibilities. It is not the only one. Others include the destruction of evidence, the alteration of records, or actions that could seriously jeopardize an ongoing investigation. Those are not technicalities. They are central to how federal investigations function. When prosecutors submit these applications to a court, they often identify multiple risks. That is not deception. That is standard procedure. Because once an investigation is disclosed, text messages can disappear, call logs can be erased, and witnesses can align their stories. The concern was never that Kevin McCarthy would flee the country. The concern was that digital evidence could vanish quietly, with no dramatic escape required. One reset, one upgrade, one accidental deletion, and suddenly, the record is gone. It's also important to understand what these so-called toll records actually are. They are not recordings. They are not intercepted conversations. No one was listening in. They are metadata. Who contacted whom, when the contact occurred, and how long it lasted. That's it. Calling that spying is a deliberate distortion of reality. Now, let's address the speech or debate clause. That protection exists to safeguard legitimate legislative activity. It exists so lawmakers can debate and legislate freely. It does not function as a blanket shield against scrutiny in matters involving potential criminal conduct. If it did, members of Congress would be effectively immune from investigation. That is not what the Constitution says. The email repeatedly cited during the hearing was not an admission of wrongdoing. It was routine legal risk assessment, a lawyer doing exactly what lawyers are expected to do, evaluating the likelihood of litigation intended to delay or obstruct an investigation. That is not a conspiracy. That is a normal workday in government. So what is actually happening here? This is an effort to reframe accountability as persecution. Attention is being redirected to forms, checkboxes, and procedural details, so the underlying reason for the investigation fades into the background. And if everything were truly routine, this level of resistance would not exist. This level of urgency would not be necessary. Here is the simple reality you can explain to anyone. Prosecutors do not ask suspects for permission. They do not provide advance notice. If they did, serious investigations would collapse before they began. Had Jack Smith notified Kevin McCarthy in advance, any relevant evidence could have disappeared just as quickly as McCarthy's speakership did. This entire exercise is designed to intimidate investigators, to send a warning, so that future prosecutors hesitate before examining the records of powerful political figures. This is not about defending the Constitution. It is about defending privilege, and at its core, it is driven by fear. Fear that a permanent record exists. Fear that communications from those critical days may someday become public. And judging by how aggressively those records are being shielded, it's difficult to believe they involved nothing more than casual conversations. If you found this analysis valuable, and if you want to support independent, fact-based reporting, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for taking the time to watch.